welcome. I'm being attacked by a wizard, and this is Reviews and Info. Today we're looking at Magic Duel. This is an episode that has been long awaited. When I first got into My Little Pony, it was through a fan-made video called Turnabout Storm, and the character of Trixie quickly became one of my favorites from that video. In Turnabout Storm, Trixie was depicted as a prosecuting attorney who wanted revenge on Twilight and her friends for vaguely defined reasons. To do this, she was going to send Rainbow Dash to the sun for a crime that she did not commit. The determination, smugness, and arrogance of Trixie made her an interesting character and an appropriate one for the Phoenix Wright universe. The way that she acted, her small little quirks, her talking in the third person, her boasting, all these little things came together to make her just as interesting as Francisco Von Karma or anyone else that Phoenix Wright has gone up against. But as the story continues, we discover the dark black cyclops surround Trixie's heart, and we feel our emotions churn up as we realize our unwillingness to break them. And the implication that her attitude is based on something deeper, something more emotional, really makes her a more interesting, more touching character. She seems to be somebody who wants friends, but is too proud and arrogant to admit that she needs friends. By the time Turnabout Storm ended, the game had painted an image of Trixie in my mind of someone that I really cared about and wanted to know more about, and I wanted to see her get a well-deserved happy ending. It was never fully explained what her true issues were with the main six, but you definitely got a feeling that there was something deep and maybe kind of sad to her past. She became a very intriguing character and one that I really wanted to see in the series. So it finally came time for me to see where one of my favorite characters came from and what she was truly like in canon to the show she originated from. And that's when I watched the Season 3 episode Magic Duel. This is my first exposure to the true character of Trixie. The episode opens on a dark and stormy night. A mysterious figure making its way through the shadows, coming upon an old shop full of ancient relics and magical goodies. The shopkeeper sees that the client has an interest in a certain Alicorn amulet, but claims it's far too powerful to just sell it to any pony. But then a giant bag of bits is tossed down and the shopkeeper immediately changes his tune and decides to sell it anyhow. Awesome build-up to the beginning of the story as the antagonist is kept in the shadows and we don't even know who this could possibly be. There's absolutely no hint in this scene, even for veterans of My Little Pony, to tell that the character they're going to be looking at in the next sequence is going to be Trixie. In the next sequence, we get a shot of Twilight, Sparkle, and Fluttershy as Twilight practices her magic spell on some of Fluttershy's animals. The animals seem to be having fun, but Fluttershy is in an absolute panic, worried and concerned that something might go wrong with the spell as she chews on her hooves like a person chews on their fingernails. I feel this is the right amount of Fluttershy personality to be giving us in these episodes. When I go back and watch Fluttershy in Season 1 and see her literally being afraid of her shadow, unable to jump over small pits, and afraid to climb or fly to the top of a mountain, I really get the feeling that Season 1 Fluttershy is a total wimp and a pushover, while Season 3 and Season 4 Fluttershy seems to have her fears and anxieties under control and taken down to a reasonably understandable level for who her character is supposed to be. It won't be the last time I say this, but I feel Fluttershy's character development is drastically different between Season 1 and Season 3 and 4. But more on that later. Apparently, Celestia's gonna be in town for one reason or another, and Twilight's making preparations. But these preparations are interfered by an emergency. She reveals herself after casting a few spells on Twilight's friends. She's back and she's more powerful than ever. Charm on her neck, allowing her to pull off increasingly more powerful and more elaborate spells. She challenges Twilight to a magic duel. At first, Twilight refuses, not wanting to face Trixie, but as she continues to torment Twilight's friends, Twilight feels that she can sit by and do nothing any longer. Now, here's where some fans have a problem with this episode. They feel that the magic duel should have had a lot more epicness to it, that it should have had a greater feeling of danger, of action, of excitement, that should have been a little darker, a little more life-risky. But then you have to think back to the fact that this is a kids show at its core, and things have to be kept a little lighthearted. That's why the Magic Duel feels like a series of increasingly more elaborate pranks than, say, a series of lightning bolts and explosions, and countermeasures and stuff like that. I feel they put just the right amount of interesting things, including a number of callbacks into the Magic Duel. There's some really neat spells that are being tried here, like the removal of Pinky's mouth, which ends up being a running gag throughout the rest of the episode, and the callbacks to the Parasprites. Even though these are completely harmless spells that they're casting, I find them to be personally enjoyable. Next, Trixie decides to kick things up a notch with her age spell, choosing Snips and Snails from the audience to cast a spell on and demonstrate that she is the highest level unicorn, doing something that Twilight can't do. Also, this is my first time seeing the characters of Snips and Snails in the series, and there's a few clues scattered around the episode that gives me some misleading information about their characters. Because Snips and Snails called Trixie by name and Trixie knew Snips and Snails' name already, I fell under the impression that Snips and Snails were Trixie's only true friends, and that Snips and Snails only showed up in Trixie episodes, and vice versa, that they perhaps traveled together from town to town doing magic shows, and that they were her official sidekicks. While this would prove to be wrong, I wouldn't have any confirmation on this headcanon until after viewing Equestria Girls, so it makes for a pretty interesting viewing experience when you have some of the wrong information in your head and you're trying to take in this series. So I'll talk about Snips and Snails more when I get to my Equestria Girls review. After Twilight is banished by Trixie, we get another character that I'm experiencing for the first time in the My Little Pony series, and that is Zatora. Zatora strikes me right away as a wise older pony who mentors younger ponies with magic skills, the My Little Pony equivalent of Yoda, so to speak. She even has a number of lines and scenes in this episode that even further cement her Yoda-like personality. Everything from the way she talks, the quotes that she says, the spells she's teaching Twilight, and even her house have a very Yoda-like appearance, and she quickly becomes a very interesting character. Back in Ponyville, however, Trixie's insanity is growing, and we soon find out that this insanity is due to the amulet around her neck making her mad. This is a very interesting character conflict going on, and I love the way all of the little pieces of the puzzle are falling together. There's some great lines in this episode, too, ones that will become beloved lines throughout the Brony community and the internet memes system. Also, some very great moments for both Fluttershy and Pinky alike. The episode cuts back and forth between the chaos Trixie is unleashing on Ponyville and the studies between Zatora and Twilight, until we create a situation where Fluttershy gets snuck out of town by a bunch of beavers and gets taken to meet Twilight with Zatora, where they discuss their plans, revealing to Twilight what Fluttershy was able to learn about the Alatorn amulet that Trixie has, and they build a plan to get back to Ponyville and trick Trixie. In the next part, Twilight shows up with a special amulet that Zatora gave her, which she's going to use to combat the Alatorn amulet. Twilight begins with the spell that she failed to pull off in the beginning of the episode, the Age spell, using it on Rarity and Applejack. She flips their ages around a couple of times and shows to Trixie that she can indeed do the Age spell. Then Twilight shows off a couple of more spells that she's able to do, such as a duplication spell, a pony with 10 instruments, and turning a mare into a stallion. Trixie becomes so impressed with the amulet that she takes off the Alatorn amulet and puts on the Zatora amulet. With the Alatorn amulet taken off, Rainbow Dash has a chance to fly out and grab the amulet and bring it to Zatora before Trixie has a chance to do anything about it. When Trixie does try to attack Rainbow Dash with the new Zatora amulet, nothing happens and Trixie is perplexed. Turns out that this whole time, the Zatora amulet was nothing more than a doorstop, and Twilight and her friends had been using makeup and elaborate illusions to fool Trixie into thinking that the doorstop had actual power to it. With a twist, with Trixie snapped out of the control of the Alatorn amulet, she realizes just how wrong she was with her actions, and she feels incredibly guilty and very apologetic, though still arrogant. She helps Twilight impress the delegates from Saddle Arabia, yet another horse-punt country, and then she runs off into the distance with a puff of smoke and a trip and fall onto her face. I really hope the character of Trixie comes back into the series so that we can see what her life is like now that she's learned a lesson, and maybe tries to gather friends of her own and pull off the same illusions that Twilight taught her. I'd really like to see Trixie come back, and I hope she does during Season 4 or Season 5. As we have less and less episodes of Season 4, I'm not convinced that we'll see Trixie anytime soon. I certainly haven't seen anything leaked one way or the other about whether or not she or anyone else from previous seasons will make a comeback, but we still have a small smidgen of hope that she will return someday. Until then, I have fan fictions and fan art to keep my mind occupied. Now, after watching Ghostbusters, I was able to put this episode into a little bit better perspective and get a better feel for who Trixie was and just what was going on. But between her appearance there and her appearance in the Equestria Girls movie and the Equestria Girls movie shorts, I find her to still be one of my favorite characters. Not immediately a villain, but not the nicest person either. I don't expect human Trixie to learn the same lessons as Pony Trixie anyhow, but I definitely love seeing her in any number of appearances she can pull off. I feel the character has a lot of potential, and even after watching Ghostbusters, I still enjoy this episode. Perhaps even more considering the amount of continuity and callbacks that gets brought back from all of the episodes that I wasn't aware of at my first viewing of this episode. I think it's definitely one of the better episodes of Season 3. Our next episode will be About Time, shortly followed thereafter by Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000 and Apple Family Reunion. Why can't Hub air its reruns in order? Well, thank you for watching, and good night.